If in the beginning of the relationship you hadn't started kept sending me these negative messages about your mood, then things would have been completely different. Because the reason it went so wrong was that in October I developed this psychological blockage towards talking to you, because my brain had associated you with negative emotion. And the reason it had done that was that I kept being in a good mood, and then I would check my phone and there'd be this message from you saying something like, talking about how, oh, depressed or sad, and there'd be like no reason at all behind it. But the thing was that because the circumstances of our relationship were very, very intense, and I was extremely in love with you, and my emotions were very much connected with yours. So anytime that you felt negative about anything, I would feel it as well, and probably even more intense than you did. So every single time that I got a message like this, it would really, really badly affect my mood, and that kept happening. You sort of there keep being like these messages that would come up. You're talking about your negative mood, and that kept happening, and then I kept feeling negative as a result of talking to you, and then after a while in October, my brain had now associated you with feeling negative emotions, and what the brain does is it creates defense mechanisms for your survival when things are negatively affecting you. So, because my brain had associated you with feeling negative, it created this barrier psychologically towards talking to you. So, I felt this. I felt like I couldn't send you a message, and I felt like I couldn't reply. So that's why I stopped. I stopped interacting with you a lot, and I started replying to you with very short messages. And that was me doing that was what sent our relationship into this really, really bad downfall, and all these arguments, and this toxicity, and this awfulness that started because you didn't like the fact that I was doing that, and you would argue with me about it, and you would feel angry, and I would get angry, and I kept trying to force myself to not have that barrier. So I'll try and force myself to still have feelings for you, and to still want to talk to you, and that was really emotionally taxing. That was really mentally exhausting trying to do that. But I'll try to do it because the intensity of our relationship was so strong. I felt like no matter what happened in it, it didn't feel possible for me to pull away from it, because of what it was like in the beginning. Even though it didn't last very long, it had ingrained itself into my brain, especially because I was very young and it was my first experience of a relationship. So there was already this component of me feeling like it was the only one that I could ever have, and we were meant to be together and stuff. And then there was still the distance. The distance made everything 10 times more intense than it could have been otherwise, because it created this, that there being this massive obstacle between us created this sense of like we've got to overcome it to be together, and it's our destiny to do that, stuff like that. So you combine that with my age and the fact that I've had no emotional experience or relationship experience, and then this other stuff going on with you saying this negative stuff, and my brain was just completely exploding in on itself. So if you hadn't started doing that in the beginning of our relationship, then I wouldn't have developed that thing where I couldn't talk to you, and then we wouldn't have started having arguments, and the whole course of the relationship would have been completely different. Would my life have been ruined anyway because of all of the other things going on? Maybe. But you doing that really sealed the fate of the relationship and of my life, because of the consequences at the end of it. I don't think that I would have developed derealization disorder if you hadn't done that in the beginning of the relationship, because that was due to the prolonged all of the prolonged emotional stress, and a lot of that was to do with all of these arguments and the forcing myself to still feel stuff for you, and all of just the whirlwind of emotions, like going from extreme anger to extreme sadness to extreme happiness to extreme love, and all that cycling around all of the time. That's what ultimately ended up causing me to develop derealization disorder. So yeah, if you had not kept talking to me about all of these about your mood, then I don't think I would have ended up doing it. Ended up developing it. And if I hadn't ended up developing it, then these are the consequences of the relationship. Like, for example, with my YouTube channel, and the fact that I didn't get to find out whether that would have happened, and with all of the gap in my development and how I feel about that in regards to like the scientific career that I wanted to have. These things wouldn't have affected me as much because, well, the scenario ended up being that like I couldn't get over those things because derealization wouldn't let me have any of the feelings associated with like I couldn't return to any of my passions and interests because it wasn't biochemically possible for me to experience feelings for those things anymore. So there was a lot going on in terms of why the relationship had the catastrophic effects on me that it did. But if you hadn't ever sent me these messages about your mood and how the negative, the sadness and the depressing feelings you had, if you just kept it to yourself or told somebody else, then the relationship would have turned out completely differently. It would have ended. It still would have ended, and it still would have had a bad effect on me. But I don't think it would have had quite the perfect, disastrous effect it did on me. And I think that I could have rebuilt my life. I know you deny it. You'd find some way of saying that wasn't true. I suppose you probably just think that I started acting that way for no reason at all. That would make sense, wouldn't it? It would be bad if it was true, and bad things can't happen. They really can, by the way. Our relationship happened. That's enough to convince anybody that bad things can happen in this world.
It hurts so much to know that you'll never, ever, ever know what I've had to go through as a result of meeting you. You'll never be able to feel the things that I've felt or experience the things that I've had to experience as a consequence of getting involved with you.
If you want to understand more about how this whole thing played out, then watch the video on my channel called I Lost 8 Years of My Life So Far. That explains everything in a more comprehensive and less aggressive way.